Well, there you go, guys. My latest acquisition, the Hygge Vesta 2025 low step. Let me tell you why I ended up with the Vesta. After 2 months of deliberation, I developed a 10-point shot list and applied that to all of the options that were there and narrowed it down to 3 bikes. 3. As it happens, the Vesta got the highest score, and I'll explain why. Now, firstly, the Vesta's got Tektro hydraulic brakes, disc brakes. Secondly, it's got Shimano Altus derailleur system with the really good trigger system. And third, the total weight of the bike is only 27 kilos. And last, I think it's more attractive. It's a better looking bike. Now the other bikes, they got disc brakes front and rear, cable operated, but they're the same size, 160 front and rear. Now, personally speaking, I think all e-bikes, particularly when you get up to this weight, 27 kilos plus, you ought to have hydraulic brakes, and the front brake should always be bigger. It gives a more stable braking effect. And their gear selector was, I call it, I think it's Tombstone. I think its real name is Tournay. I just want to demonstrate the difference between the type of selector that was on the other 2 bikes versus what's on the Vesta. You've got to use your thumb over the top of the grip all the time. Now it's alright going down, but when you go up you lose grip. So your thumb is always over the top and you're opening up the palm of your hand, so you're not gripping the grips properly. Now this is the Altus triggers. You're always gripping the handlebars properly. You can trigger your finger underneath all the time. So that's why this is a better system than the other. Now the other one works perfectly okay, and you want to change gear quickly. This is what you want. The third, the other bikes weighed in at over 30 kilos, and in one case 10 kilos heavier than this. And I thought the looks of the others were a bit more industrial, military, that type of thing, I suppose. Right, having eliminated the opposition, let's take a closer look at the Vesta to see exactly what we got. So we'll start with the front wheel. Now you'll see the front brake disc is hydraulic caliper as well, and the disc is 200mm diameter, and the wheel itself is cast alley with the fat tyres. Let's have a quick look at the back brake. You see the rear caliper, hydraulic again of course, and it's 160 diameter. And this is one of the main points which made this bike more attractive, because it's got better braking system. Now here's the folding hinge, which we'll talk about that a bit later. folding pedals. And that there is the cadence sensor, which we're going to test any minute. And this is the other side, of course. I'll zoom in, that's the back wheel. You can hopefully see the Altus derailleur system. 7 gears. There's the main gear with a nice little chain guard on it. That's the folding mechanism. And the front wheel, of course. There's the suspension for the front suspension. This has got locking system on here, so that's locked, and that's normal suspension. The other side has a preload. You can adjust this for, you want to make it softer or harder, whatever, you can just tweak that around. The mud guards, they're plastic. Personally I prefer plastic. They're not too prone to, well, they're a little more flexible, say. There's a few fixings for a front carrier and a front light, of course. There's a folding mechanism for the handlebars that folds right down. Now here's one of the interesting bits. This little lead here, it's a lead for a throttle control. Pull the plug out and you've got a socket there, and just plug it in and fix it to the handlebars and you've got a throttle control. Now the handlebars here, Tektro hydraulic brakes. See, one tube here, that's the hydraulics for the braking system, drives your calipers, and that one there is the one that drives the control system, which turns off the motor when you brake and puts the brake light on. Now my bike has been supplied with a bell as opposed to a buzzer, and I'm told mine is the latest version. As you can see there, I've put on a really nice rear view mirror, which is rock steady. You've got the control display here, which I'll turn on, push and hold for a few seconds, let go, out comes the Hygge, and there's your display, which I'll go into a little bit later. I'll turn it back off. There we go. And on the other handlebar you've got the gear selector mechanism and the grips stitched. Very nice. You'll also notice all the cabling runs right through the frame. Now I don't know if you can see on the top of the motor there, it says 48 volt. It is a 48 volt system. It's got a 250 watt motor, and the battery is 14 amp hour. And there's the on off switch. Charging point is there, and with a 14 amp hour battery, 48 volt, you get close to 700 watt hours, which was my target. Now we're going to see how sensitive the cadence sensor is. Now it's powered on, maximum power. We'll see how quick the back wheel turns. Here we go. Still once again. from the vertical. That's pretty good. So it's about 1/3 of a turn. Yeah, it's about 1/3 of a turn, which is pretty good. Right, this is the saddle that came with the bike. It's a perfectly good saddle. It's well made, good quality, and it's called Sal Royale, I think. Now, I found it a little bit too hard after I'd been on the bike for about an hour and going over rough ground. I started to suffer round the back, as it were. When you get to my age, you ain't got that much fat to support you. So I wanted a bit more comfort. So you could say, well, let the pressures down on your tyres. They're nice big fat tyres. Let the pressure down. No, no way. Never do that. The reason being, you'll start destroying the wall of the tyres, you'll lose part of your grip, and you're more prone to punctures. Now, if you want to solve the problem of cushy ride, like I do, there's two options. Change the post. You can have a suspension post on there which will give you a bit of extra support, or you can do as I've done. I searched the internet for a seat which had built-in springs and a soft top, and this is just the job. Got it from Amazon, 15 quid. Now that's a damn sight cheaper than getting a suspension post, which is going to cost you 100 quid at least. So it's a nice soft top and it's got built-in springs underneath. Lovely job. It solved the problem. I've been out on it, done several miles on it, no problem whatsoever. Well, let's talk about the controller. First, let's power it up. Battery's on. Up comes the logo. And that's the normal display. Now, as it comes from the factory, this button here gives you your 5-point pass point. Now, when I went out for me 12-mile ride, etc., I had occasion to come across quite a lot of pedestrians on the cycle path, and I found it rather difficult, even on pass 1, to control the bike, because as soon as you start turning the pedals, the bike wants to go. You have to stop pedaling and brake. Or I was a bit concerned about it being a bit too fierce at the low level. 5, of course, gives you maximum power, and it flies. I mean flies. Goes up hills like stink. In fact, I only needed pass 3 to get up the hills. Anyway, after a while I started digging into this system, and I found a nice touch. Now what you do is you push the power button and you get into another menu. Now if you then tab down for information, push the power button again, you get into another menu, or a list of bits and pieces for your information, etc. Now, right down the bottom, there's that PWM set. tab up to there, hit the power button again, and you see you've got loads of options which you can select to control the bike in different ways. Now, as it comes from the factory, it's that one, 5 pass points with 0. Now if you tap that again with the power button, it lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the power that's delivered for each of those pass points. Now if you notice, pass point 5 there is 250. Now I think that's coincident with the power of the motor, which is 250 watts. So I'm thinking that pass point 5 is 250 watt. Pass point 1 is, I haven't got my glasses on, 70 is 70, so that it's delivering 70 watts even at pass point 1, and so on through the range. Now you can sit on one of those pass points, hit the power button again, and you've got a slider which you can adjust up and down. I thought, well, maybe there's other options here. I hit the power button again, come back to where you are, and I thought I'll select a different one. Exit. Gear 9 with 0. I thought, let's have a look at that. And here we are, same sort of setup. 1 right through to 9, which is again 250 watt, I think. I haven't got my glasses on, so it's a little bit difficult. And you've got many more steps, 9 steps that you can tinker with. Now, when I was looking at pass point 5, the 5 plus 0 setup, and pass point 1, it was 70 odd watts. Number 1 here is 23 watts. Now I've already been tinkering with this and dialed them down. So if you get into, again, the slider bar, you can adjust this up and down. So in point of fact, you can devise a profile for the bike. If you're on this gear 9 with 0, you can make it relatively docile at the bottom end, driving up to, again, 250 watts at the top end. So you can get into these various points and adjust them however you want the profile to appear. Now this is a point which I think is quite important, because it's a good selling point. I selected the 9, I'll show you on the display when I get there. There you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which gives you a much more flexible control system. And I found by dialing down those first couple of 3 pass points, I'm able to make the bike relatively more docile for when you get into heavy pedestrian traffic. So there we are. Power off. Goodbye. I just want to demonstrate the problems with folding these heavy bikes. Now they are folders and they're meant for really caravan people stowing bikes away and long-term storage, but there's a way of making it a little bit easier. So I've undone the latch.
Yep.
I'm going to try and fold it. I just can't do it because the back wheel, I've got trying to control the back wheel at the same time get the bike folded. So now I'll show you a little dodge. I've got to put a strap on this brake. This is the rear brake. There's a bit of Velcro. Right, now the back brake is fixed. Now I'll unlatch it again. Now, because I've got control of the back, I can fold it quite easy. But what would be nice is a little trigger on the brake lever so you could lock it and then release it when you want it. So, what do I think about this bike? Well, it's presented nice, it looks good. Premium components used, got Samsung cells, Shimano, Altus gears, Tektro hydraulic brakes, and the finish of the bike, the paintwork, very good indeed. Now it comes 95% complete. All you have to do is straighten the handlebars. I hope you can see these screws here, they supply the tools, etc. You just slacken those off, set the handlebars at the right angle, and the pedals. They even supply the tool for the pedals as well. Charge the battery with their supplied fan cooled fast charger, halves the time pretty much in charging time of the battery. And generally, of course, the fat tyres, they'll take you anywhere. I've even been on an unmade pebble beachfront road and it handled it perfectly okay with a little bit of extra power. My other bikes, you get on the pebbles and you either dismount or fall off, and it's stable, it's planted, it's well balanced, and it gives you confidence. And it's got plenty of power, gets up any of the hills that I've tried anyway, better than my other bikes. Unfortunately, this bike is so good, I think there's a danger of my other bikes collecting dust. So would I recommend it? Yes, definitely. The only thing is they could improve it by putting on the throttle, a launch throttle. Makes it much easier for hill starting. But I'm told that the 2026 version will have that installed and it will be UK legal. Whereas if you buy a throttle at the moment, plug it into that lead, fix it to the handlebars, you have to sign a waiver because it makes it non-legal. But I'd rather have that than nothing. And personal comfort, I just like my saddle rather than the original one supplied. Little things that they've supplied is this strap. When you fold it, you wrap that around the back wheels and it keeps it all nice and tidy folded. The folding mechanism, just the same as all the other bikes, blinking difficult. However, for a few quid you could use the brake levers that are supplied on the e-trikes. They got a parking brake, and if that were on here you'd have a much easier job of folding it. And what score would I give this? Oh blimey, 95 out of 100 I think. It's a really good bike. Would I recommend it? Definitely. It's fun, real fun, goes anywhere. Oh, the other thing is, The flexibility of the control system, that is a real bonus. You can make this bike do then whatever you want it to do. You can either have it fiery or nice and docile, or a combination of both. It's really good. So there we are. Hope that's been good for you. See you next time.